Hi guys, I've got some exciting news. The WPT has given me a bunch of golden passports, and these are free $2,500 seats into the big $5 million free roll that they're doing at the Wynn on December 13th during the WPT Championship. All you have to do to get into the drawing where I'll be giving away these golden passports is head over to ClubWPTGOLD.com, sign up and verify, and use the code BART. More information about this contest in the links in the description. All right, let's go to the next caller here. This is going to be Harry. Hello, Harry. All right, so where are you playing out of?
So I'm playing in Pittsburgh at a private 2-5 game. That Rivers 2-5 game just never gets off the ground, like only on weekends. So
Okay, and how deep are you?
so I am $850 deep, and I'm 750 effective with the villain.
All right, so 750 effective, okay.
So I am in the cutoff with 5-3 of diamonds, and I know the Preflop police will come after me. But if you look at Nate's chart, it's 25 RFI, and I was playing a little tight this game. So when it there was a limp under the gun, and it folded to me in the cutoff, and I opened to 20.
So UTG limps, and are you playing full ring?
Yeah, at this time we are.
All right, so UTG limps, hero raises 5-3 of diamonds to 20. And again, one of these things where I will, to simplify things pre-flop, I usually say ignore the limp. The only thing that I will say, though, is you got to watch out for people who are like limp re-raisers. If I had been dealt 5-3 of diamonds in the cutoff and someone limped in that hustler game on Thursday, I would have raised it. Now, I had gotten limp re-raised a couple of times too, but I don't think it's very borderline, right? Right, 5-3 of diamonds, so I don't think it's
right on the border, but like I said, I was playing pretty tight to start. I wasn't getting dealt a lot of hands, and this game it doesn't often limp to the cutoff. So
tell me about it. All right, so you make it 20, okay?
Yeah. So it folds all the way around, and then the under the gun completes, and he just calls for 20.
So your head's up, right?
Yep, and it's about 47 in the pot.
All right, I'm gonna put it as 45 with 5-3 diamonds. Okay, yep.
So then the flop comes the king of spades, the queen of clubs, and the 10 of diamonds.
So does he check to you here on this flop?
Yeah, he checks to me, and I was thinking about my sizing here, but for me, like I feel like his range is like pretty condensed when he just limp calls. So I think that this is like a slam dunk C bet, and it's kind of be like a one and done. Or, if I pick up backdoor equity, I can continue on the turn.
So how much did you bet here?
I bet 20.
So the only thing I would say here, so you're saying that you're going to one and done this unless you pick up backdoor equity. So it's interesting. Have you ever heard of like delayed C betting before?
Yes, of course.
So delayed C betting, and sometimes this can actually happen on boards that are really good for the preflop raisers range, and I'll make this play. You could just check this back on the flop, and then if he checks to you on the turn, you just then bet. The reason why sometimes I'll do that on a board like this is because you're saying you're going to one and done here, but if the villain has any piece of this, or like a jack, and maybe even sometimes ace high types of holdings, he's very well going to call. Whereas if you don't bet the flop now, and then you bet later on, a lot of the like sort of bottom portions of that range that still beat you that would have called on the flop are probably going to fold turn. And what I mean by that is like 9-10, ace 6, something like that. If like the turn's a 3 and they check to you, you know what I mean? Queen 8.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I think I was just kind of thinking of like, if I was just thinking to bet the flop and then, kind of like just kind of one and done it if he has a piece of it. But like I said, he's so wide here when he limp calls that.
And the other thing too is like you don't really have a hand that picks up a lot of backdoor equity. I mean, all you have is a backdoor flush draw, right? Like, I mean, it would be better if it was like ace king queen, like or a one of the wheel cards, like a deuce or a 4. By the way, that actually very slight demonstration as to why direct suited connectors are better than gap suited connectors, because if you had 4-5 suited and the flop had a deuce or a 3 in it, or 3 or a 6 in it, you can see like you pick up a lot of equity with like a lot of cards. But if you have a gap suited connector, you need a specific, well, you can't really pick up open-ended you need like a specific card in the middle. But anyways, okay, so you bet 20 here with the backdoor diamond draw.
Mm-hmm. And he calls.
20 call. All right, 85 to the turn. Okay, yep.
So then the turn comes the 6 of diamonds. So I pick up my backdoor flush draw, and he checks to me once again. And I just think, like, based on what I said at the flop, I just think it's like a really good barrel card because I pick up equity.
Sure.
And like you said, a lot of those hands that he just kind of has a piece of, like a king, a queen, or a 10, he might fold out. He also is, definitely likes to call. So I think this could be like, at this point, I'm thinking of like triple barreling off on the river.
Yeah, this will be interesting so I mean, a lot of times, like you pick up your backdoor equity and then you can bet, close to pot, say like at least 65 or more. And then you're like, all right, well, if this guy like calls on certain boards, that means he has top pair. Maybe I'll just give up at the end if I don't make my draw. And then I'll get like the second pair and the third pair to just always fold out. The only thing about this board though is that people are still going to call with like queen jack and 10 jack, which are the pair plus straight draws, anything basically with a jack in it that's connected. So which might fold out at the end if you were to bet again. So it's a little bit different than if the board was, king, queen, 5-6, where you're like, all right, well, or king. Actually, I think a better example would be like king 8 deuce queen, and then you bet the turn on like king 8 deuce queen, and then you're like, all right, the guy doesn't have an 8 anymore, second pair. But here, he still might have some of these hands that are pair plus straight draws. I mean, I would bet again for sure with how light. I just don't know if it's an automatic triple off or it would, we'll see. How much did you bet?
I bet 75.
Okay.
I went close to pot. And he didn't just put it in. He kind of thought about it and called. So I wasn't sure what to do with that, but usually he's like quick and decisive. So anyways, he makes the call and then we go to the river.
So the pot's 235 now.
Yep.
Pot's 235 now. The board is king of spades, queen of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. The interesting thing here is hero with 5-3 of diamonds. The top and second pair are both available for someone to have for the backdoor, king X and queen X of diamonds and jack X of diamonds. So sometimes when you have these low flush draws and you get into a weird situation where it's like, is it possible my opponent actually might have a higher draw than the same draw, but higher than me in this particular spot?
Definitely was going through my mind. I think I've heard you say this a few times before. It's one of those times we were thinking, do I really want the diamond to come in or do I want to miss so I can, bluff? It was interesting.
So, all right, what's the river here?
It's the ace of diamonds.
So the river is the ace of diamonds. So it puts a one-liner out there to a jack, and then obviously it brings in the flush. You have the 5-3 of diamonds. So
backdoor flush gets there, yeah.
Right, your backdoor flush gets there. Again, though, king X and queen X of diamonds are available. And it's a one-liner out here to a jack, which, by the way, now I feel like this will really lessen a lot of crazy like bluffing that might go on, and also will curtail anybody from going nuts with a straight because it's a one-liner out there. Like maybe somebody bets, but then one raise goes in, a guy's just going to call with a jack in a certain spot. And I don't necessarily know if a guy is going to check raise a jack here on this run out either, if it does get checked to you. So there's that. So what happens here? Does he check?
So basically what happens is he leads 50 into me.
Oh, okay. So he leads. So okay. All right. So
I didn't know what to make of this.
So UTG leads 50 into 235.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would raise here. I mean, this looks like a text. I mean, this looks like a raise, and then if you get something happen to you, obviously it's an evaluate. But the reason why I raise here is because I can see this guy leading with the jack. It's different. Like if the river was like, say the river was like the deuce of diamonds instead of the ace of diamonds, right? Okay, and he led. Now it's kind of weird because it is kind of a small lead. But say he led for like 75 or 100 on the river into 235 on, say, a deuce of diamonds river. So instead of it being king of spades, queen of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, ace of diamonds, the river was the deuce of diamonds. It very well might just be a call. I might have just called. If the river was the deuce of diamonds and he led at me, I might have just called with a little bit of smaller sizing.
I don't know about this villain, but I get what you're saying.
But here it's different because there's another class of hands that he's leading with here, which might be jack X. So he's never calling with worse. I wonder if some of these people, I don't know if that happened in the live chat, but I see some of these comments sometimes, and I wonder if some of these guys have played a hand of live poker ever. Anyways, all right, so he leads for 50, yeah.
I was thinking about kind of what my sizing should be here. I ended up settling on going to 200. So I ended up raising to 200. And
okay.
Yeah, I think with this villain and stuff, like he could be leading a jack, and this guy is crazy. I've seen him jam like bottom two on a monotone board. I've seen him jam sets on like.
Now wait a minute, you only started with so you started with 750. You raised to 20 pre-flop. You bet 20 on the flop. 75. So you start with like 650 here. So after the 50, you have 600.
Yeah. So then I raised to 200.
Right. So like if you jammed here, it would be like 600 more for the guy to call, right? Like if he led for 50, you would be jamming like 650 total, right?
Yeah, I had that's about what it is. So yeah, it never crossed my mind to jam here. I think I wanted to raise and then evaluate because I had enough behind to do so.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'll say here is that if you were to jam, say for like 650 or 700, that might be, and I'm usually not on the side of people saying it's greedy, unless the guy was just a total fish here. I don't know if you might get Jack X to fold here if you go crazy, because he's going to look back at the board and he's going to be like, oh, there's a flush out there. And, if someone else has a jack, it's a chop. So if you jam for like 650 all in, you might get a jack to fold. Now, the other thing that's going on here too, which I sometimes will say is kind of leaving a quote unquote escape hatch, where are you deep enough to possibly raise fold? Where you're like, all right, 200 actually seems like you said to yourself, all right, maybe I can raise to an amount where I'm going to get the Jack X to call. And then I know that if he comes back over the top, it's impossible for him to be bluffing. So I take that line instead of just jamming where I might not get a Jack to call, but I'm getting hands that are better than mine to call. Here, I raise to 200. I get the Jack X to call. He's never going to 3-bet me with worse most of the time. So I take the smaller sizing. Now, if you started the hand with 650 or started the river with right around 650 here or a little bit less, and then you raise to 200, that means you've got like maybe 425 left. I mean, if he calls, it's 435. If he 3-bets you all in, you're still going to get like 2-1 here. Are you capable of folding? I guess that's the other question too, is like, sometimes you have to not raise if you're not prepared to raise fold because you're just opening yourself up. It changes the math. If you say that you're going to raise for value thinly, but then you're never going to fold if the guy re-raises you, that changes the math equation entirely in a given situation. So, I mean, that's what I would be thinking about here.
Yeah, I think against any other villain, my plan was like would have been to like raise and then fold to a jam. But I think against this villain, like especially in hindsight, when this guy 3-bet jams, like this particular guy, like he has bluffs and he has worse hands that he's jamming for value because he's a maniac, So
what ended up? So you raised to 200, and what happened?
He then jammed.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're telling me this is a player-dependent type of situation here where you were almost raising to induce, then okay. But normally this would not be a raise to induce. This would be, you'd be in a shitty spot here because no one's going to be jamming back with Jack X. Even though you think you have a handle on who this guy is, what are you saying that you think he's 3-betting all in with worse than 5-3 of diamonds for value?
The only and I'm not saying this is good. I'm not saying this is like good poker at all. But if he looks at the board and he convinces himself that there's no way like I can have a flush here, and he thinks that I'm possibly raising him with a jack and he wants to blow me off a chop, and I've seen him do that before, where you're jamming to get someone off of a chop. That's the only thing I could think of.
I mean, yeah, but on a backdoor diamond draw, and why wouldn't you be able to have diamonds? Because all you did was just raise pre-flop, bet the flop, and bet the turn. It's not like he raised at some point where he could, I'm not saying he's saying up at this point, but there was no aggressive action taken by your opponent at all throughout the hand. So you can have diamonds because he didn't raise the flop. See, if he check raised the flop, the only diamonds that you would have, right, would be like king X, queen X of diamonds, and maybe jack X of diamonds, or like some nut backdoor diamond draws that you were peeling with. If he check raised flop, you're not supposed to have 5-3 of diamonds here at the end. That never happened though. It was just check call, check call, check call. So I don't know. Sounds to me like you called, I guess.
Yeah, I thought I was in the tank for this one longer than I normally am. Like I said, just a lot of the stuff that happened the day before with like him calling light and jamming worse and just kind of being all over the place. I flicked in the call.
And
He revealed queen of diamonds, 9 of diamonds.
it doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked. I think I think going back and looking at it, I honestly, like, with what you said about possibly even jamming the river right there or something like that. I think if I was gonna, I don't know, it was a tough spot, and I think the villain dependent nature of it made it super interesting where I didn't think I could fold.
Yeah, again, I just go back to the whole thing where in these types of scenarios, if apparently you thought that it was going to be a profitable call against a 3-bet, but if you don't think it's a profitable call against a 3-bet, then you do need to sometimes consider sizing down as opposed to committing yourself, because like I said, it changes all the math about getting called by worse. But interesting call. Thank you very much.